morning, everyone. You are watching Barnstable This Morning. I'm Sarah Colvin, and we are starting another round of interviews with our 13 town councilors, and we're doing it in reverse order this time. So I welcome as our first town council guest, Precinct 13 Councilor Jen Cullum. Jen, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me first.
No problem. Thank you for coming in. I figure, you got to switch it up every now and then.
I know. I make that plea constantly with the Patriot. They won't listen to me. I think that we should rotate on one every 13, and they say no. I'm a Italianist councilor, so it's, there's 4 of us, so I have to okay. But I always have a lot to say. That's one of the things.
Indeed. And so a lot of things going on. Of course, it was certainly a busy year last year with all the work on the problem property ordinances. That's all done. Those have all passed. Certainly, I must feel like a success for you.
Definitely. I'm really thankful, and I think that the proof is really in the pudding. I mean, we asked for a review from the chief after the first 6 months, and we were really pleased that we could mitigate problems, that there were problems that were solved, that landlords were in fact willing to step up to the plate and be responsible property owners. We were really, really thrilled about that. And I think we all knew in our heart of hearts that's exactly what would happen. Sometimes you just need to have the rule in order to make people come forward. So yeah, I think we're really thrilled about that, actually.
Right, and I think I've already seen some work starting to be done on some of those properties. There was one on Versus Way, I think, that needed some work.
And
yep, exactly.
Needed some work, really.
That's an understatement.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure. Yeah. But good to see stuff moving forward. So I wanted to talk a little bit, and you wanted to talk a little bit about your role as a liaison, and that's something that that all councilors do, is serve as liaisons to various boards and committees. So let's talk a little bit about the committees that you serve as a liaison to, and kind of what your role is as liaison.
Right. So initially, when I was elected 2 years ago, the real crux of the reason I ran was the drug issue and the crime issue. So now that we've got past the property ordinances, which I think are really, really important for our community, there's other angles to take. And the drug problem is growing. The prescription drug problem is growing. There's really, we need to examine that. And so I've tried to put myself in a position where I could have a little bit more say and be a little more educated than I was prior. So the liaisons that I have are for the Human Services Committee, which is really important. It's a great group of people. Meetings are always open, by the way. You're welcome to attend. It's the second Tuesday of every month at 4 p.m. We meet in the Selectmen's Conference Room. So we are in the process now. You probably, if you tuned in to the town council meeting a few meetings ago, Casey Myers from the Cape Cod Times came and spoke with us about her kind of bird's eye view of what she sees the problem is in our community, our Cape community, not just Barnstable. And we're kind of doing an overview. We had the chief of police come and talk to us last time. I think it's the 14th, is the second Tuesday this month. We're having Dr. Mary, the superintendent of Barnstable Schools, come and talk to us about what her plans are to mitigate and help children, and also the Youth Commission will be there. So we're hoping, and then we're hoping to have someone from Duffy and maybe someone from Cape Cod Hospital and maybe a pharmacist come in and talk to us about where they see we could make improvements or what needs to be tweaked or whatever. Probably a bad choice of words there. But so I am really looking forward to getting a more comprehensive view and maybe figuring out a way to mitigate things at the school level to prevent more addiction, or at least stem the tide.
And really, really so important, because I think that as we've seen over the past years, really the instances of addiction, the starting with the prescription pills, moving on to heroin because it's less expensive. Yeah. And I think the scariest thing for me is that, you don't have to go down a scary dark alley or meet with some sketchy dude in a parking lot. It's like you can get these pills from, your mom and dad's medicine cabinet, or your friend's medicine cabinet,
or the person you're working out with at the gym.
Exactly, absolutely.
I mean, it's everywhere.
And it's, because it's a so-called legal drug, it's like, oh, this isn't going to hurt me, it's fine.
Right.
And look what's happened with so much and see it's so sad for me to see so many young people getting addicted to heroin, and then so many young people losing their lives. We've seen that happen a lot over the past few years, and certainly something that absolutely needs to stop.
Basically, whenever you see died suddenly, that's what that means in the obituaries. Yeah. Especially if they're under the age of 40 or 45. I mean, that's exactly what's happened. And I mean, the obituaries are riddled with them. And I really feel that at this point, it's a crisis in our community, and it really deserves a second look. And one of the things that's really invigorating to me is to talk to the youth about the problem. Like when Elizabeth Ells and the Youth Commission came in to speak to the town council, we were up here on the dais, la-la-lying, and these people are living it every day. Right. And so I'm really looking forward to that, to communicating with the Youth Commission and seeing what plans they may have or ideas they may have that someone who's 43 like myself, wouldn't even think of. And I like peer pressure in another way, maybe.
Right.
Peer pressure to be clean,
Right.
Right. So that's a really exciting thing for me, and I'm hoping that we can take, Youth Commission is really a Barnstable thing. It's an excellent idea. It works really well. But maybe we could take that Cape-wide, and I'm hoping to take Elizabeth and her crew on the road with me and go from P-Town all the way up and see if we can't get some more people on board with that.
Absolutely, and it's important because the kids aren't going to listen to the grown-ups. They're not going to listen to the adults. They're going to listen to what the kids are saying.
Right.
And
right.
the
a
more
jury of their peers, after
exactly,
all, right?
And the more positive encouragement and anti-addiction they can get from their peers, I think the better. It'll
Yeah,
go a long
and
way.
support for that. I mean, this whole idea of it's escaping me now, the Challenge Day, is a really excellent idea. I've done a little bit of research into that, but I have a kindergartner at home, and I would like to see something that brings everybody down to like we're all pink on the inside at that level. Maybe it doesn't have to be as hardcore as Challenge Day. We don't need 6-year-olds falling apart, but just enough to keep everybody on a level playing field.
Exactly.
Emotionally and mentally, and everyone
Encourage
accepted.
that.
Yeah, and then see that every year in some way, shape, or form. A program like that every year for every kid.
Yeah.
To realize, because these kids are going to be with them, some of them through high school. And those bonds are really important, especially at that crucial 4-5 building thing. Like
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's when you decide yes or no, or that's when your decision's already been made.
And if you have that kind of base when you head into high school, then it's a lot easier for you. I want to move on a little bit and talk about the shelters, because I know obviously this is an issue that's been dealt with a lot. There's so many fabulous organizations out there really working to help the homeless, but there are still issues in town surrounding the shelters and surrounding things that go on with that. So talk to me a little bit about this new shelter model that's being explored.
Okay, so I have to give Elizabeth Werfbane credit here, because she has really bird dogged this whole thing and done a great job. She's searching for a way to make Main Street a vibrant and safe and successful place for small business people, and I applaud that. That's definitely in my bones, part of my DNA for sure. And one of the issues is obviously the shelter being so close to Main Street and the spillover, as it were. And if you go from there into human services issues, which is really easy to do, we have people in the woods, blah blah blah. So our shelter model, this whole thing is kind of on the presumption that our shelter model is kind of a broken model that no longer works.
Right.
And so in an effort to find maybe a streets to part-time job or streets to success program, Elizabeth went out and found a model called LifeBridge that's in Salem, Massachusetts. Now, I mean, I think on some levels it's really exciting. On other levels, we have to proceed with caution. Certainly we couldn't take their model and just impose it on Hyannis and expect it to work. But I have to applaud the town. The chief has gone to Salem, the town manager, the assistant town manager, Rick Presby's gone. Everybody is really interested in moving forward with something that could help people really, and not just give them a bed interminably that leads to nothing. So if you wanted to look it up, I think it's lifebridge.org. You can Google it. It's kind of a self-sustaining shelter system where it's not a rotating door, people have beds. There are emergency beds for wintertime, which is important around here. But we no longer have the revolving door that has made, I believe, Main Street a really hard place to make a living. And we also, in fact, help people and don't just prolong the problem.
Right.
So, and there's a huge part of the solution is the police, a huge part of the judges, a huge part is the town, a huge part is human services. So it's a big puzzle. It's going to take a long time to put it together, but I'm really thankful that the town is actually critically looking at it, because it's just not the current model does not work for us.
Right, and I think looking at more of a solution than just giving someone a roof over their head for the night, but looking at a whole solution
and then what?
Finding those exactly what's what are the challenges, what are the roadblocks, what are keeping you from sustaining yourself, and how can we help you get from that point?
Right, and how can you help yourself? This is
that's the big thing. How can you
yourself?
Help yourself?
Yeah.
How can you get off of being helped by other people and start to help yourself?
Exactly.
That's huge.
That's huge, and that is really the change in focus here, is empowering people and having them be part of their recovery as opposed to just sustaining whatever situation they're in, which is where we are right now. And I'm really looking forward to Councilor Hebert's help on that too, because Champ House is a big success, and I think it's kind of a straight line model, like kind of a no nonsense model, and I think that there's probably some similarities there. So
Exactly.
So the council is pretty dedicated to looking at this, and I'm thankful for that too. We have a really robust and interesting new council with a lot of different opinions and a lot of cool personalities, and you know, I'm looking forward to critically thinking with them and
Absolutely.
making things work.
So a lot of stuff moving forward. I know that one of the big issues in 2014 is definitely going to be the transfer station, the trash hauling, pay as you throw, et cetera, workshops coming up. Talk to me a little bit about what's on the table, what you're going to be learning about and talking about as the year goes on.
Well, I mean, with pay as you throw specifically, I guess, you know, we need to make sure that it's going to benefit everyone in the community. And I have to say, I hear from the same people often, but I don't hear from the majority of my community about, and I said this last time I think I was here, about pay as you throw and how you feel about it. So the fact that I'm not hearing a lot means that maybe it's not such a hot button issue for people. However, you know, it ought to be. And so the council still has to move forward with these decisions. So I do support some form of pay as you throw. I feel like it's a good thing for our community, and I feel like the money will come. You know, sometimes you have to create the system, and then things kick in and people realize they can actually make cash doing something. You know, so maybe recycling paper will be more productive financially if we can get more paper.
Exactly.
You know, so I don't think that the financial aspect, it doesn't make us any money, it loses us. I think that's just a moot point. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Right.
Because, you know, at one point computers weren't popular, you know.
And look at us now.
And look at us now, you know, we can't live without our technology. So I feel like there's many ways for us to grow that way, and I'd like to see Barnstable be way more green than it is. I'd like to see recycling everywhere, and I think we're moving toward that. I think, you know, Tom Lynch has been really open-minded to that, and I mean, he ought to be. It's 2014.
Absolutely.
So.
Indeed. Well, Jen, thank you so much
Thank you
for
very
coming
much.
down.
Always a pleasure. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Jen Cullum, of course, a Precinct 13 Town Councilor here in Barnstable as we continue our series. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
For Barnstable This Morning, I'm Sarah Colvin.